Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're having a look at another devblog for the next major update in War Thunder. Now, there was a little bit of confusion with when I put update 2.30 and the devblog title last time. Understand this, after the last few updates, it is impossible to work out what Gaijin are going to either call or number the next updates. Therefore, whatever number is in the title is a placeholder. The idea of a placeholder is that it's there until I can change it to whatever it is proper. I did this last update, and hopefully this continues. I've been told in the past that when it comes to the numbers of the updates, they are arbitrary, so therefore this will also be arbitrary. Now, let's have a look at a new ship which is coming to the game. This is the SMS von der Tann. It's going to be a rank 5 German battle cruiser of the First World War, which is coming to the game. So once again, still focusing on the older areas of naval fighting, and I think generally this is a good idea to do. You don't just want to add in, Second World War battleships, since of course then once you add in the earlier battleships, such as the dreadnoughts, and even after that, they would just get annihilated by them. So the idea of adding these battlecruisers and battleships now, which are a little bit older than those machines, is nice to see, and the SMS von der Tann adds to this list as well. So basically, the reason why the von der Tann exists is because it was built as a counter to another machine. This was HMS Invincible, which appeared in 1906. The Imperial Navy found itself lacking an appropriate response to the British battlecruiser. It outmatched pretty much everything the Germans had at the time in their fleet. So shipbuilders got together and they began working on a design which would be an equivalent to the vessel, the HMS Invincible, and it would be under the name Cruiser F. And as the ship would eventually become Germany's first battle cruiser, its design was carefully considered, with emphasis being put on speed and also protection. And by mid-1907, Cruiser F's design had been finalized and its construction approved by the Kaiser in June, and it was christened SMS von der Tann in honor of a Bavarian general. And von der Tann was laid down in 1908. It was launched exactly a year later, and before being completed and commissioned into service in 1910. And at the time of commissioning, von der Tann quickly became the new symbol of the German naval power, being not only the first German warship fitted with steam turbine engines, but also the fastest warship of its time at the time. And after completing trials, the von der Tann was sent on a cruise to South America before returning to Germany in May 1911. And obviously, since it was built around that time, it did take part in the First World War, and it participated in numerous naval operations in the war. This included the Battle of Jutland in 1916. The First World War didn't last that long. And as well as participating in raids against British ports and also engagements against the Russian Navy in the Baltic Sea. And at the end of the First World War in 1918, von der Tann, with the rest of the German Navy, was interned at Scapa Flow. And in the following year, the intern German fleet, along with the von der Tann, scuttled itself to prevent capture by the Allies, with this event marking the end of the warship's illustrious career. So it did serve in the First World War, and unlike a lot of the other machines that we looked at last update, this one actually fought in many different operations. So that's really nice to see, something that was fully used for its intended purpose, which is great. Now, when we have a look at this machine and look at its firepower in general, one of the things that does stand out is, since it's a battlecruiser of this size, it has the same 280mm SK-L45 cannons that you find on the SMS Westfalen. Now, it has 8 of them overall, but because of how they're set up on the machine itself, you can see right here you have this turret, then this turret, then this turret, and this turret. Because they are set up in this non-parallel way, you are actually able to bring all guns to bear on a broadside. So technically this has the same firepower as the Westfalen, at least when it comes to the broadside point of view. It won't obviously be able to attack targets with as much firepower if it's attacking, stuff which is either side of it, but generally in War Thunder, this thing should have equivalent firepower to the Westfalen that we already have in game, which is pretty impressive for a battle class of ship, which is slightly smaller than, of course, the battleships. It should be very effective at dealing with whatever it finds, at least at the BR. And hopefully it will be able to shake up at least a few little things, because it has access to slightly other parts as well, which make it kind of interesting. So the first thing is, primary armament isn't everything, even though it is quite a lot. When it comes to armament, there is 10 150mm secondary guns on this thing, and also 16 88mm tertiary guns, which are designed to attack smaller targets at closer ranges, so stuff like PT boats. So when it comes to secondary armament of this thing, it's packing quite a punch against smaller vessels, and when it comes to its bigger armament, of course, it's going to be great at annihilating whatever is far away. It also has 4 450mm torpedo launchers. These will be able to obviously launch torpedoes pretty much wherever it feels like, but at least for me, when I have a look at torpedoes at high tiers, at least for these machines, like the older machines, the torpedoes seem kind of useless, if I'm honest with you. Just basically another ammo rack you have to look after, because the torpedoes don't go far enough to actually make any difference at all. Now, one of the things that is generally different between stuff like a battle cruiser, which this is, and a battleship, is a battle cruiser will normally have less armor than a battleship, even if it has equivalent weaponry. And this is found with the SMS von der Tann. When we have a look at its general armor, it's got a belt of 250mm around the place, and the main battery turrets and secondary battery casemates feature up to 230 and 150mm of protection, respectively. So it still has a ton of armor on it, but it shouldn't be as well armored as a lot of the battleships that it would face when it comes to War Thunder. So I wouldn't worry too much about, having to deal with an even more armored machine. That's obviously it'll be hard to deal with. It should work pretty similar to the other machines that we have in the game. So whatever you were using to destroy them, you'll be able to use to destroy this. The main difference, in my opinion, obviously with the firepower being very similar and the armor at least being quite similar, is of course the propulsion system. The steam turbine propulsion system definitely means that this thing can move a lot faster than some of the other battleships and battle cruisers that are around the place. 50 kilometers an hour is its top speed, or 27 knots, and this basically means that the machine will be a lot more useful when it comes to the game. One of the things that is overlooked a lot when it comes to naval forces is the fact that speed is not key. Well, speed is key. There is a lot of complaints when it comes to map design, when it comes to naval, because a lot of these larger ships can't get to the capture points, therefore they lose to stuff like PT boats, therefore they lose to, basically just boats which are a lot faster than them if they can't get to the battle in time. Well, here is an example of trying to address that by going a little bit faster. Now, whether it's going to make any difference or not is obviously a slightly different story, because we already have machines which are this speed in the form of heavy cruisers and light cruisers, which still don't get to the battle in time, especially in stuff like arcade battles. So we're going to, as I said, we're going to have to see how that affects, the overall ideas. But basically what this does here is it adds another machine to an already powerful high tier for Germany. Now they have, not just the Grafspee, now that they have the battleships, now that they have the Eugen, now they have the Hipper, now they also have the SMS von der Tann. So that is a hell of a lineup when I think about it, and they may not have the best ship in game, but they definitely have the best lineup. And on top of that as well, they have some handy-dandy bombers that you can bring along to be able to destroy the enemy ships. You know, you have stuff like the ME-264, the Ju-288, the Ju-188, the Grief, with its, of course, wonderful targeted bombs. Like, there's a ton of stuff that you can use when it comes to Germany, and this just adds another little piece into that wonderful crown that is there. Hopefully, when it comes to these machines, a lot of people will enjoy them. A lot of people will have fun with them. I personally am not too interested in stuff such as the Von der Tann. Ship gameplay is slow. It will always be slow because of the reloads and because of the nature of the history and the realism of naval combat. But hey-ho. I'm sure somebody out there will enjoy this. I hope somebody out there will be looking forward to this wonderful machine. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez B. Young, and also Hans Vergellen, Sebastian Mizon, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.